Hey guys, I hope you can hear me okay. Alright, so just to review, earlier this week we were focusing on adding and subtracting integers using different colored chips. So to go over that quickly, if I were to have positive 3 plus negative 6, I can easily determine what I would get using the chips. So I'm going to use the red to represent negative and the green to represent positive. So I'm going to start with 3 positive markers. So 1, 2, 3. And I want to add to those 3 positives 6 negatives. So I'm going to draw out 6 negative markers. Now recall from the previous videos, a positive and negative together create 0, or a 0 pair. So I'm going to cross off these 0 pairs because they're just going to cancel each other out. And I'm left with 3 negatives, determining that positive 3 plus negative 6 equals negative 3. Alright, so we just focused on what happens when we add integers. So now let's take a minute and focus on subtracting integers. So if I give you the problem, 8 minus negative 3. I have 8 positives and I want to subtract 3 negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out my 8 positives. So as you can see, we have no negatives to subtract here. We only have our 8 positives. So in order to subtract 3 negatives, I'm going to need to add 0 pairs until I have 3 negatives to subtract. Remember, adding a 0 pair does not alter the problem. It's like adding 0 to any number. If I say 2 plus 0, I'm still having 2. Nothing's changing. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 0 pairs until I have 3 negatives. So here's 1 negative, 2 negatives, and 3 negatives. Now I have my 3 negatives to subtract. So I'm going to cross those off, and I'm going to see what I'm left with. And I'm left with 11 positive markers, so my answer is positive 11. So we just focused on the problem of 8 minus negative 3 equals positive 11. I want you to think about another way I could write this problem to get positive 11. So we all know that 8 plus 3 is also going to give us 11. This brings us to an important rule. So if there is a minus sign and a negative sign next to each other, I can change this to an addition problem. It's going to give us the same answer. So I want you to write that rule down in your notebook. So if there's a minus sign and a negative sign next to each other, change it to a positive. This will make harder problems much easier so you don't have to keep drawing out the positive and negative markers. Let's focus on one more type of subtraction problem. So the problem I have is negative 2 minus 4. So this tells me that I have two negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out my two negatives. And I want to subtract from that 4 positives. Now remember, I don't have 4 positives to subtract. I only have those 2 negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and add 0 pairs until I have 4 positives to subtract. So I had to add 4 0 pairs in order to have 4 positives to take away. So I'm going to go ahead and cross off those 4 positives. And I am left with 6 red markers, or -6. Now I want you to think, what is another way I can rewrite this problem to also get -6? Couldn't I just say -2 plus -4? That would still give me -6. So this would be like having 2 negatives and simply just adding 4 more negatives to that. Still creating 6 negatives. That eliminates you from having to add 0 pairs. Go ahead and copy these problems into your notebook and try to solve them. Use the rules that we just discussed and draw out counters to solve each problem. Go ahead and pause this video, solve the problem, and then press play to see if you get the correct answer. Did you get the correct answers? If not, it would be a good time to come up and see me so I can clear up any issues that you are having.